I think too, like if we allow ourselves to be onboarded to these digital ID systems and this, these financial surveillance systems, these programmable, surveillable currencies that they've been developing, then it's going to be much easier for them once everyone's dependent on those new systems to force things like carbon credits on people. And I think that's part of the plan, because the same people that are the architects of the digital ID stuff at the UN, people like Mark Carney and Mike Bloomberg, I mean, they're all in for this carbon credit stuff. They're arguably architects of that entire system and the whole like stakeholder capitalist model and ESG stuff. They love all that stuff. And I don't think they have any intention of abandoning that market just because people don't like it. I think they're waiting for the right time, that once they have people onboarded to these systems enough and there's this insane surveillance state in place where like, your face is your ID and all of this stuff. And they can just track everything you do and everywhere you go and whatever. And smartphones become more invasive. And we're at, this point too, where like in the next couple of years, all the brain machine interfaces are going to roll out like Neuralink and whatever for commercial use, at least allegedly. I mean, it gets kind of crazy then. And I think at that point, it will be much easier for them to impose this kind of stuff that in the current environment would be a hard sell. It becomes a much easier sell once you have those kind of systems in place. And I think that's why, like in UN documentation about the SDGs, without digital ID, so many of them just don't work, right? The digital ID stuff in the SDGs is built within SDG 16, which is intimately tied up. I mean, Interpol is the implementing partner for SDG 16. It's about building strong institutions and like ensuring peace. But if you look at the nuts and bolts of it, as Ian Davis and I have done in our work on the SDG, specifically SDG 16, it's about completely controlling speech online, complete blanket censorship of dissent is a key part of manufacturing peace here. No one's disagreeing online anymore. So I guess we've solved the hate speech problem. Oh no, well, you just like censored the crud out of like people talking. That's not exactly the same. Or giving like Interpol all this power to basically become a de facto like global police organization, which is what it's been angling to be for a very long time, quite frankly. But you have like, people like, like I mentioned earlier, the idea of this biometric entry exit thing, that's the SDGs and that's Interpol. It's tied up with the digital ID stuff and the financial inclusion agenda of the UN. But all of this stuff is very bad when you look at, what it's building toward. And if we have that kind of system where like, peace through mass surveillance and like peace through a police state and all of that stuff, like, yeah, I mean, you can have an extremely authoritarian, totalitarian government impose order on a society or whole nations or the world. And you can say that's peace. But that's not really what most people think of when they see the flowery description that they give of SDG 16. But when you read what it's actually about, a very different picture emerges, and they can't do it without digital ID. They can't do it without implementing this whole, surveillance panopticon, and they're relying hugely on private sector partners to build that, right? But again, as we've discussed, before, and as
do you still have your Bitcoin on an exchange? Don't hold your Bitcoin on an exchange. Take it into self-custody. If you're looking for an easy way to do that, we have the BitKey. BitKey is Bitcoin made easy to use and hard to lose. Take the first step, get your Bitcoin off the exchange. Check out the link in the show notes. That'll get you 20% off your BitKey, or use the code TFTC20.
Noted a lot in this piece. That Panopticon has been a public-private partnership. It's been these private companies, the same network of Silicon Valley oligarchs who, oddly enough, all have some sort of Jeffrey Epstein connection. That's how close-knit they all are. Have done it with like, In-Q-Tel funding or some sort of, federal backing of some variety. And almost all of them, I'm pretty sure all of them actually, of the biggest tech companies, are government contractors, either for the military or intelligence or other parts of the government. So, I don't really think it's fair to talk about some of these VC firms as as just, venture capitalists and, they're free market capitalists and, American success story stuff. I mean, they're there because a particular network like selected them and ensured their success. And there's a lot of, incubators for those type of networks around. The one we focus on in the piece we've sort of been mentioning on and off today is called Endeavor. It's backed by the Bronfman family, which, comes up a lot in my books as it relates to the Epstein scandal, and also Piero Migliore of eBay. And has a lot of ties to the PayPal network because Reid Hoffman is one of their main dudes, and they've developed a lot of these entrepreneurs in the global South that are now dominating, fintech in places like Argentina and beyond, and have all these ties with, if you look at some of these Endeavor companies like Satellogic, that we've talked about before, you have the involvement of people like Steve Mnuchin and Cantor Fitzgerald and like a lot of these debt barons in these intelligence linked satellite companies and stuff. I mean, there's a lot of very disturbing plays going on right now, and I think it's really not getting enough scrutiny. And oddly enough, we're kind of in this situation where if you're, on Twitter a lot, for example, you're being told that, some of these billionaires are the only thing that stands between us and total tyranny, to quote, to paraphrase a recent tweet from Michael Schellenberger. Mm-hmm. Right. And so this idea that like these billionaires are the answer to all of our problems. I mean, Trump's a billionaire too, right? I mean, it's just kind of crazy that people have been led to believe that the only thing we can do as a country and as a society is place our entire future in the hands of a very small network of billionaires.
Mm-hmm. The answer to all of our problems is always surveillance. That's the democracy. We need surveillance and ID. The oceans. We need to surveil them.
Pandemics,
surveillance.
Surveil your poop, surveil the animals.
Yeah.
Surveil
the border issues. We need to surveil more. And then you see. I mean, yeah, like you mentioned, Satellogic. Tether gave them $30 million. In April. Why is Tether investing in BlackRock Neurotech? Why are they investing in all this AI stuff? Why are they investing in satellite observation companies?
Yeah, someone needs to explain to me why banking the unbanked Tether is investing so heavily in brain machine interfaces.
And satellites, like what? Why? For what reason? Aren't they empowering the global South? Like, why do they need to look at them with satellites? I don't.
Yeah, run by the board's chaired by Steve Mnuchin of the former Treasury Secretary.
And Howie Lutnick of Cantor,
the former head of the U.S. military, basically is on the board too.
Yeah, Dunford. Marcos Galperin, who's Endeavor's first success story, who is the head of Mercado Libre, which is basically the Amazon, eBay of Argentina, of Latin America, really in general. You have the head of Caterpillar on there, which again, if you want to sort of look at, maybe we're moving towards commodity-backed stable coins. Well, then that puts all of this power into the oligarchs. Not only the oligarchs that own all of the fields and all of the wheat, but also the manufacturers of the machines that can, farm at a scale big enough to have agriculture commodity-backed stable coins. Yeah. You got them on there.
And Satellogic is surveilling the grain stuff.
Yeah.
Already with the plan to do that. And they already have a company in Argentina called AgroTokens backed by Visa and all of that that's trying to advance that play as it relates to Argentina's agricultural sector. But the last time we talked about Satellogic, Marty, it was because they were trying to impose this carbon market with this network of companies, right? So again, these are efforts. I think what we're going to see from this particular network is unprecedented efforts to create new markets where markets have not existed before.